Okay, so in this demo, I'd like to talk about drawing the head and this, well, new kind of way of drawing the head that I stumbled upon and developed a bit, and I quite like it. It's nothing revolutionary, but it might help in finding a comfortable way of looking at the head, or let's say finding a structure for the head. So generally we say, okay, the head is like this sphere, maybe somewhat elongated, and a la Loomis we cut off a bit. That's the temple, and from the side we come down and we basically add the jaw, and usually we take about the radius of our initial sphere, or half of the height of the sphere, stick that underneath it to get kind of a comfortable proportion, and so on and so forth. And then in this head we usually like to find the center line, and we get this jawline coming up to the temple. And so these lines, this middle line and this line for the cheekbone, and this temple line for the eyes, brows, placement of the nose, all these help to show the orientation of the head. And now this method is fine. It's pretty accurate. It's pretty sound. I loved it. Well, the ear should be a bit lower, usually aligned in between the nose and the eyebrows. And it just gives you, let's say, a little bit of proper control over how to orient or locate the parts and features of the face given a certain orientation. So this head would be looking down a bit, and we get the chin somewhere over here probably, and we see that the eye line drops down and then curves up to start meeting the ear, and so on and so forth. Don't want to linger in this for too long, as this is basically covered already, but I just want to state and note that there is one thing that's maybe a little bit of a downside of this method, and that is that we have to stick two parts together to begin with. So part one is the kind of the cranium, and attached to that we find this wedge shape, which is the jaw and the muzzle basically. And placing those two, combining those two together in some perspective in space can already be rather, I would say, tricky or confusing if you're a beginning sketcher. So hold on a second while I go grab some files, and then I'll return, because it's maybe best to show some examples. Okay, I've managed to find some sketches. So here you see my kind of fun new approach for sketching the figure, and it's basically treating everything as some sort of cylinder or variation thereof. Tubes and cylinders make up the whole body, and I found that in many cases it even works for the head, as you can see, right? So here's another example. Basically get the whole idea of the figure captured in simple set of tubes and cylinders, and we can even include the head in this. And what's nice about this is that if you find this cylinder for the head, it's kind of a bucket shape that you only have to carve out apart, and then you can already start inserting some features like eyes and brows and ears, etc. So that is the difference from this particular Loomis head kind of approach. I'll change to a blue color, maybe a separate layer. With our bucket head, we are simply concerned with some sort of ellipse and a direction in which this circle or ellipse is extruded, and we find some bottom of it to then show a middle line and still have about halfway the eye line. And so this point of tangency gives us the way in which our eye line should come across. And of course this is far less reminiscent of a head than this whole football or sphere plus jaw shape. But if we were to consider it from the side, and we say, well, our head is kind of a bucket, maybe with a little taper. And the proportions don't matter that much. And we'll find that eye line coming to the ear about halfway. And just as we see here, the jawline dropping down from about halfway, we already get quite a familiar skull type of feeling or recognition by just carving out of that cylinder, right? So this halfway point along the side of the cylinder or the bucket should also be found in, for example, this perspective. So we can think about how we go across, and we use this direction of tangency about so to come across the middle, then see where we hit, and from there we drop down. And once again we do the same carving. We keep this back of the skull part, then the jaw, and indeed we can raise up the corner of the jaw a bit and connect that with a smooth curve, somewhat smooth curve, to this jawline. This would be where the ear would start occurring. And so we can relatively easily make it look like a head in 3 dimensions. And this sketch is pretty, I would say, rough and dirty, but already we see the idea. So this is the bucket head idea, where we take a cylinder and we kind of give it the proportions of 2 by 3, and we just cut out the lower back corner of it. And so this can be quite, I would say, fun to start experimenting with, and see if this helps you to maybe figure out what a head would look like seen from a certain perspective or angle. In this case, I'm thinking that I should once again look for these tangencies here. I'm thinking of the head seen from the bottom and then coming forward with the jaw, so it's like I'm looking up into the back of the skull. Now the ear would be somewhere here, a little bit foreshortened obviously, and I wouldn't see much of the eyes at all, and I can even make this a little bit more, well, let's call it closed. And yeah, the neck would insert from here and probably come out quite strongly, like this. So it remains to be seen how much we would see of this jaw. It depends on what the shoulders are doing. This would be kind of the bone structure maybe for the jaw. And of course this isn't a one-to-one realistic, completely naturalistic looking head, but it is a way to think about the head and consider its construction to get it in a proper orientation and looking the way you want it to look, and being able to easily place the features. So the main difference is that here we start with 2 quite different types of volumes, which we need to somehow connect in space and find their relationship in perspective, where here we start with one simple shape, and we basically cut away at that simple shape. And that can be a much easier thing to do, to find a cylinder in space and make sure that with the center line coming across the top and the front and the eye line, you already establish the right orientation and level of foreshortening of the head to then be able to distinguish by cutting away a part between the cranium part of the skull and the jaw part of it. And maybe as a final note, you don't of course have to stick to literal cylindrical bucket type shape. You can easily of course start playing around with the shape and its proportions and see whether you can still make it work. as kind of face structure, right? So in this case, I'm thinking I'm already curving the head a bit, maybe giving it a bit more swoop towards the back. I'm kind of looking up at the top part of the head, maybe already account for a little bit of the angularity of the jaw downward, and find and place the center line. So in this direction we come over, and we can fairly easily start assessing where we would find this kind of swoop. Let me clear it up a bit. Into the jaw, the little ear over here. And yeah, there comes a point where you might have to let go of this head structure. But you see that it already gives us quite a clear, quick, and I would say relatively easy establishment of a head and a face in a certain position or perspective. You can imagine that, for example, let's zoom in, this particular face, maybe we can duplicate it, find some place to put it, and we put this up here. Oh, wait a minute, let's take this bad boy. Can I copy it? Nope. Okay. I'll just duplicate the layer. Oops. And select it. Maybe select all the rest. And delete. Okay, there we go. So eventually, when it comes time to refine this head, you might want to, or you might have to get rid of most of the lines and start thinking about the kind of rounding off of the forehead, and modify these initial lines a bit more volume, more mass in the back of the head, for example, and well, whatever the ears are doing. And still think about, secondary structural ideas like the ball of the chin and so on and so forth. But it gives you, let's turn that, or make that a little bit higher. It gives you now plenty of, I would say, guidance in all those decisions, right? Secondary structure of the nose, whatever that might do, and the keystone of the nose, bridge of the nose, cheekbones jutting out maybe, and you see that I can use it as a basis for further refinement of the face. So, of course, this still takes plenty of knowledge and practice, but for somebody with, I would say, elementary design sketching skills, knowing how to rotate a cylinder and a cube in space, and being able to manipulate those shapes by cutting away and adding to it, this bucket head approach might be a good start and already yield some very clear results. Somewhere over here. Let's not make too much of a detailed sketch out of this. That's not the goal of today at all. So I should probably stop it right here. The neck needs a bit more mass. Well, okay. As long as you guys get the idea. Wait, one more thing. Okay. I should quit it. So yeah. Hope this might be a little bit, I would say, inspiring, and maybe give you some fresh idea on how to approach something of a head drawing or sketching, finding the orientation, the spaciousness, the volume of it, and already clues or cues for placement of the features in maybe a simpler way than the kind of Loomis head idea. And of course it's up to yourself, up to your personal preference or taste. I'm sure there's plenty of other, let's say, methods or ways of thinking to approach the head, but just as an inspiration. Thanks all, good luck, and stop. Okay, what's maybe nice is some practice with this bucket head. So I found a nice piece of reference here. Make sure I put a link to these references and the creators of them. We see 5 heads in total, so all different positions, and some are well, quite straightforward. I'll start with maybe the 2 in the center, where we also see the body, right? And what about the left head of the guy? What can we say about it if we were to kind of think about wrapping a tube around it and making it all one simple cylinder? Well, then we could say that the axis of that cylinder is at some sort of tilt like this. Thinking maybe even a bit more, but it's okay. And are we looking very much up at the head or down on the head? Well, we're looking a little bit down on the head as he's tilting it forward towards her. We can see a little bit of the top of the head, so we would have some ellipse like this, and then maybe over here some ellipse like this, and we can start basically showing the cylindrical wraparound bucket type shape in which this head would fit. We can already think about the center line, so the eyes would be about halfway, probably a bit lower. And I'm just keeping it light and loose. Am I seeing a lot of the front of the face? No. I'm seeing a whole lot of the side of the face, so it's actually not perfectly straight side view, but if I were to find the jawline, it would not be here, but over here maybe somewhere, and then we can kind of find that line toward the chin, and we are just barely seeing the center line on this side, which would wrap over the head like this. And already here we see the same kind of alignment, this for the eyes and then wrapping up toward the ear, as we see in the reference. We see where the neck juts out, how it juts out, and of course we can add the necessary mass to the neck, and even this neck can be considered, should be considered, well, can be considered is maybe a better word, kind of a tube or cylinder of which we can once again establish how it is behaving in space. And don't worry about the muscle structures overlaying it and all that. Just see how it attaches to the head, inserts into the back of the skull. And there you go. Of course we can find the brow line slightly above the eyes, and maybe in this case the initial center line is kind of a good divider for the temple. So I'm just modifying this original cylinder, dropping down with my kind of, well, what I like to call Iron Man mask idea. And we can see where the nose should be placed, where the mouth should be placed, and not even have to worry about these features, but it's fairly easy to kind of stick them on in the right location, especially if you have reference and you can look for how much the nose juts out, and we see a clear eyebrow, and within that eyebrow we see the eyes. We hardly see anything of the other eye, so I'll choose to, well, maybe show just a little bit of an eyelash. We can give the mouth line the curve. This curve would of course happen because of the curvature of the teeth and the skull in general. On top of that, he's showing a slight smiling expression, so that curves maybe the corners of the mouth up even more. And yeah, I could at any point decide to assign him his prominent chin and design the face or the head and give it hair. Now what about her head? Are we looking up at it or down at it? Well, we're actually at eye level, but she's looking up a bit. So we're kind of seeing the head itself from an angle below. And you can see that usually just by the way the ear is related to the eyebrows. So the ear is much lower, and we see that if we come from the eyebrows, we cross from eye to eye, for example, we need to drop down to find the ear. So that already gives us a hint. Let's begin in a similar manner and find maybe the angle if we were to once again wrap a cylinder around her head. The angle of the axis of that cylinder, it would be pretty similar in its angle, a little bit less angled to the first one. And showing the bucket, we would find pretty similar ellipses. I'll make this one a bit flatter as it's coming towards us, but the overall initial cylinder looks quite the same. It's just that from this top cylinder we now only see the front part, and from this bottom one we see the full cylinder. And of course what changes is the location of the center line. So for her the center line would be somewhere over here, I suppose. Maybe I need to refine that, but seems about okay for now. And the wrapping line for the eyes moving up would be somewhere over here. And so we see that we have less room on the side for the skull or the jaw, and the placement of the ear somewhere over there. So it doesn't look like her, it's not supposed to look like her, it's supposed to give me the similar relationship between placement, direction for the eyes, eyebrows compared to the ear, placement of the nose, mouth, etc. Yeah, we can definitely shorten the chin and round off the jaw. She has a much rounder face. And then we find some, wipe this down just a bit, and we'll find some extra width and cheekbone on this side, and we can start claying the hole again into the particular face that we're after. But hardly ever for our purposes or my purposes do I reach for a precise likeness. Once again we can see where the neck is attached and how it is attached. Basically finding our cylindrical cross sections, and there we go. So even though with our more round face these cheekbones are a little bit less conspicuous, we can find them. We can find the hair and place everything as we please, and of course change everything if we please as well. Let's delete that final line. just to show you. You can look for how the hair wraps behind the ear. It's all gathered in a ponytail on the back, and you see some nice curving locks of hair you can play with. A little bit of volume wrapping around the far side of the hair. I kinda like her eyes. She has these, how do you say that? Half moon type of eyes. Squeezed pretty flat at the bottom of the eyes. Always makes for a fun expression. I'm still trying to align and carefully consider the alignment of the eyes based on this initial bucket head, and if I need to, I change the position of the eyebrows. They are quite mobile. And here we again, with some knowledge of the structures of the face, we can start thinking about secondary structures and forms. I'm going to zoom in a bit. That makes drawing a bit easier. Give her full round pupils, very cartoonesque. Big eyes. And let's find the mouth. Maybe she has quite full lips. Here also secondary structure, so from that initial middle line we need to realize that we come in and out, back and forth, to show how the upper lip is tilted downward and the lower lip is tilted upward. Give her a bit of a smile. And we can keep it very simple and cartoony, make this very round, or maybe a bit more puckered. I like to show more of the corners of the mouth, have a bit more weight in the line there. But I'm already deviating way too much from what the goal of this demo was. Right, we're just trying to find the bucket head that allows us for a quick, easy, yet accurate establishment of the position and the perspective of the face. But yeah, I'm having a bit too much fun now with refining this. I wonder what I think of it in its mirror image. Yeah, looks nice. Fine for now. round cheeks and jawline. And there you go. As simple as that. So we have two more. Maybe I'll do one of them. I think the one in the top left is rather nice. It's a side view, but we do see it slightly from below. So my buckets, and maybe I can also try to kind of test my manipulation skills of this bucket. So I'll make my bucket quite deformed already, maybe something like this. Instead of these straight lines, I'm gonna work with a slight curve on top and bottom, maybe a bit more even than I see in the reference. And now establish the eye line, something like this. It's quite subtle. And maybe push the jawline a bit back, and I get already quite a different design. Neck coming out once again. So I'm hardly seeing anything of the other eye. I'm basically seeing the keystone of the nose bridge, and then I'd see the nose somewhere here, maybe showing a little bit of the bottom plane of the nose, as we do want to keep consistent with the idea that we're looking up at the face. And you know what, let's change our bucket shape for the forehead and cut off quite a bit. And find these high cheekbones in this case, and the temple somewhere here. Brow line somewhere over here. So just to maybe show you that it also works quite nicely for fairly nuanced orientations with these ellipses and controlling their width. I feel like changing his face quite a bit, maybe even more protruding chin. Getting very cartoonesque with it. And somewhat of a malicious grin. And once again, the eyebrows may be very heavy. A little bit shorter, actually. Maybe I'll quickly give them a hatching. Deep set within the sockets. Or eyes that are squinting quite a bit. And we can hardly see the pupils. This line is a bit too much. jaw has a bit more mass. Well, you see how that works. All based on this bucket once again. As long as you realize that this bucket is only an initial stage, once again to reiterate, only to help you find the orientation, perspective of the head, and how the features are placed in it. If it does that, then that's all you need from it. It doesn't mean you need to stick to certain areas. You can just go ahead and modify all of that after the fact. Let's see. Well, we hardly have any room left, maybe. The final one is the one on the left, below the top left, the one we just did. And maybe we can move this all a bit down. Get some room here in the top. So, same difference. I'll find the tilt of the head by imagining if I were to wrap a cylinder around his head, or stick a cylinder on his head, what would its axis be? And I can find the bottom of the face or head, and I can find the top, and it's pretty straight on, so I'm not seeing a whole heck of a lot of the top of the head, maybe a tad bit, and maybe I'll once again start manipulating this bucket quite a bit. What I am seeing is, of course, the center line from his face here, and that gives us the eye line like this, and we can chop away this back quarter of our head again. Somewhere over here would be the ear, and the brow ridge, the nose, and the mouth. And with just these lines, we have already established quite clearly how the face is, or the head is oriented in space, and we can give it again more detail or structure and work away at it as we want to. Little cutesy tube of a neck coming in here. So that's the idea. Hope that was helpful to see, and good luck with your drawing. Until next time.